An area of the body that equestrians really need to make sure they have great flexibility is the hip flexor. This is going to allow for a supple seat and hip and allow the hip angle to open and close with the movement of the horse. I know my hip flexors are always tight, so this is something that I have to constantly be aware of and work on a near daily basis. So I wanted to show you how I stretch my hip flexors so you can add this to your routine as well. I like to do a kneeling hip flexor stretch. So you go into a runner's lunge, if you will. And to make sure that I'm not cheating this, I'm going to have one hand on my low back. What I see a lot of people do when they're stretching their hip flexors in this position, they'll come forward like this. And yes, I do feel some stretch in the quad, but look at my low back. See, when it's dished out like that, I'm not getting a really effective hip flexor stretch the way I need to. So I'll have one hand on my low back here. That ensures that I'm not hyperextending my low back, my lumbar spine. And thinking nice and tall, I'm going to shift my weight forward, squeezing my glutes on this side. So I'm squeezing that left butt muscle as I slide forward. Now notice I'm not extending the back. My torso is coming forward with my front shin. To increase the amount of stretch that you feel specifically on the hip flexor, the deeper hip flexors, your iliopsoas, with your back leg, go ahead and bring your foot out to the outside. This effectively internally rotates the hip and puts those specific tendons on a little bit more of a stretch. So same position to start, thinking nice and tall, squeezing that glute. Ooh, yeah. I can really feel it open up for me, especially in through that hip flexor area. I'll hold this, especially if I'm done with exercising or riding, for about a count of 30, back off. Do that 2 or 3 times each side. If I want to make sure that I have great hip flexor flexibility before I get on the horse or before I begin a workout, I can do that same process, but I'm going to hold for a shorter duration. So counting maybe 1,000, 2 1,000, backing off, do that about 10 to 20 times each side.